Welcome to the Friday edition of One's World, and as I promised last Friday, I am returning here to Wat Samroung Andet. Not sure what the Samroung Andet means. Wat means pagoda, and I don't really understand the etymology of the name, so I'm just going to call it Samroung Andet. Here it is on the left, and I went right past it last time because I was in a bit of a hurry, I guess, and I wasn't sure how long I could spend in there, and also didn't quite know what was going on, so I just cycled past it, made a few comments and said I would be back. So if you watched that video from last week, you remember that I'm traveling west this time. I came up from the entranceway on Japanese Fellowship Boulevard, and I was showing you just how long it can be to get all the way from the entranceway that's on the main highway to the actual pagoda. And now I'm curving around it to the western face, and to my left is actually the western entryway, but instead of going in this time into the entryway, I kept following the traffic. I kept curving around, and the road bent again towards the west, and that was my way home, so I took it. And just down here is an interesting place, a place I've never actually been to. It's a water park, and it's been closed for all the time of the pandemic, so I haven't really had the opportunity to go in there. Don't really want to go in there anyway, but it's an interesting looking place. So I passed it by and was being a little bit sentimental, and then this week I came up from that direction. So here it is, here's the water park. I'm only going to just take a little look at it and continue on. You can see down there in the distance, you can see the pagoda that I'm heading towards. So I'm going to get back on my trusty bike and journey on towards the pagoda so that we can go inside. And it was nice, quiet part of the day. Last week I went at I think it was about 8 o'clock. Well, this is more like 10 o'clock. So the rush hour traffic is over, and this particular part of Phnom Penh is not especially crowded anyway most of the time. So now, if you can remember the opening sequence, I have to curve around again to the left here. There's some buildings in the way getting towards the pagoda, so I'm going to just watch out for the traffic, of course, watch out for the horrible potholes in the road which are everywhere, and curve around and come up to the west entrance to the pagoda. And you can just begin to see that there's actually a very grand gate here. when I'm able to get the camera up, you'll be able to see a little more clearly, and I'll describe it a little bit better. It's got a series of steps. So let me just get off my bicycle, and there's the steps, and then let me just raise up the camera a little bit so you can see the full gate. So that's the pedestrian entryway, but there's also a vehicle entryway. I'm not going to ride because I want to take photographs, and I have a different way of doing things this time. I'm walking with the camera actually just attached to my chest, so that's why it's all bumpy and whatnot. Now to the left is the entryway by foot, and this is the entryway by vehicle. And I just want to turn around and show you the space which is forbidden to traffic. And what I've done is I've taken a few stills, so here you can see the entryway as it is in larger perspective. It's under repair right now, so you can't really see as much as I'd like. And there's a little bit up close, and you can see that there are people going in. To the left and right when you go up the steps are little chapels where you can go in, and there are various things like there are statues of the Buddha, there are places you can light incense, places where you can pray, and so forth. Now I'm curving back around. You see the motorbikes are parked here because the people have gone inside. And what I want you to notice to my left are these snake bodies, and they're curving all the way around. And then there's a head here that I'm just passing, and you'll see another one in a minute. There's another head, and then the body. These are called Naga. Naga is a god in the form of a hooded cobra with multiple heads, with all kinds of abilities, both good and bad. And different Naga do different things. Some of them really help you, and some can really be a pain in the neck. But in these places, they are guardians. They are guarding this building, which is on the left here, which is an administrative building, and also the dormitory for the monks. And you'll see that at various places the tails join up. So in some of the pagodas they're actually entwined together, but here they just meet up. And at the entry to everywhere, at the gates, at bridges, at all places of entrance, you will find Nagas protecting the area. And so up ahead here are two things. One is a sacred elephant, and the other is a cat. The cats always follow me around, seemingly. Now here is a statue in honor of a local god, and here's a sacred elephant holding a lotus in his trunk. Elephants are indigenous to Cambodia, but not very common anymore because their natural environment has been seriously degraded. But they do have working elephants in Cambodia, not as much as you'll find in Thailand or in Vietnam. If you go up to Angkor, then you can ride an elephant at a price. They don't have any elephants that are logging or otherwise working these days, or pulling things. In Vietnam I saw a lot. In Cambodia they're pretty scarce. So now what I'm going to do, I'm coming up to an area on the right which struck me as a bit anomalous. Wasn't quite sure what it was. It's a bridge, and every bridge in Phnom Penh, I'm talking about every single bridge, whether it's over a river or over another road or over a waterway or whatever, is protected by nagas. And here you can see more closely. And not just protected by one or two, but protected by clusters of them. But I'm not quite sure in this case what this bridge is over. It doesn't look like it's over anything. And I couldn't get across it with my bicycle, so I just took pictures and then went on. Now you also see that the pagoda is very, very quiet most of the time. That man up in the distance there is pulling a recycling cart. He's collecting plastic and glass and cardboard and so forth, and I guess getting reimbursed somewhat for it. And if you remember from one of my previous videos, I've mentioned that a lot of workers earn between $1 and $2 a day. So he probably works all day gathering recycled materials from around the city and probably nets between $1 and $2 for many, many cartloads that he's got. Now here's the main pagoda, and again I've got some stills of it just so that you can get a sense of its majesty. And it's I'd say fairly typical. Again, some nagas to protect the environment, or the temple environment, that is. Then moving on, I noticed on the right hand side a small chapel, open air, with a reclining Buddha. The reclining Buddha is a very common image, although in this case the reclining Buddha was just a painting. And in there was a man praying alongside a whole series of statues of different gods and so forth. And he was lighting incense and praying. I didn't want to do too much in the way of video. I did here, we take a little bit of a one, but mostly I just took the still photo without pointing the camera because I didn't want to be intrusive. And then over to the left was really interesting. There was this monk, and I didn't notice at the time, but I noticed now. He's got a cell phone out and he's doing something and whilst eating a donut. That's really not supposed to happen. Monks are not supposed to be doing that, but I see it a lot. Okay, so now we've come all the way from the west over to the east gate, and this is the gate that I left by, but over to the right is this pagoda's water feature, and not especially spectacular. Does not have any lotuses, which is a little bit unusual. Not particularly unusual, but it's more common to have lotuses and other water lilies and water flowers. And on the other side of the water feature, you can see a series of stupas. And again, if you saw my video a week or so ago, you will know that a stupa is a grave marker, that there is at least one person buried under the stupa, and it's sometimes the body is actually right inside with a glass window, you can see it, but most of the time it's buried and there isn't any way to see inside. All right, so that's my pagoda visit for this week, and I hope that you liked my tour of Samroung Andet, and I hope you will tell your friends that you will like and subscribe, and I'll see you back on Tuesday. I think I'm probably going to be doing some cooking. I've got a vague feeling about that, because I've got some fusion ideas that are coming to mind. So have a good weekend.